Okay, so a few days ago, Prince of Egypt just reached its 25th anniversary, and that is a milestone for this movie. I just watched it again, and I've watched this movie so many times, and it still blows my mind away. This is probably the greatest animated flick of all time, and it's not even a Disney flick, so sit down, Disney! Honestly, I highly doubt anybody in this generation has not seen this movie, but I'll still give a little premise for if you haven't, and it tells the story of Moses from his time as an Egyptian prince to later telling of how he would later lead the Jews out of Egypt to freedom. I don't think I need to go any deeper than that because that is the Exodus story. And I mean, this movie tells the Exodus story in the best way possible. And it was a lot better than that trash we got with Christian Bale a few years ago. Everything about this movie is just brilliant. This movie came out back when DreamWorks was first getting its steps in. I mean, they had just become the studio they are today, and this movie was the spark that would later make DreamWorks the titan that it is today in animation. There is not one flaw in this movie. I mean, the amazing animation is like way before its time. The way the story is told is phenomenal. The amazing cast is brilliant, and also the music, not just the score, the soundtrack as well was amazing as well. No flaws whatsoever. The animation, what makes this movie so amazing, and the fact is that it's 2D animated. So this was still when 2D animation was still a thing, and it was still the main core for animated films before we started getting to the 3D computer generated crap that we get now. And the way it's done, it just brings out so much more emotion. Even knowing that these are animated characters, the emotion shown in this movie is just on a whole nother level. It actually just makes them feel like they're real. And along with the cinematography added too as well, when cinematography was taken to its max in this flick was of course moments like when we were seeing the 10 plagues and of course the parting of the Red Sea. And of course that's not something that really probably astonishes people now, I guess, with what this movie, it's just though when it came out, which was 98, that was top notch for that time. In my personal opinion, what makes this movie really spectacular is the way the story is told. I mean, this movie is told mainly through the eyes of two characters, and of course one of them is Moses because this is his journey, but the other way it's told is through his relationship with his brother Ramesses, who is also the antagonist in this movie. I mean, their relationship was really the core of this film and the heart and soul of it that really made this movie so spectacular. I mean, first they start off as brothers, as close as you could possibly be when it comes to brothers. And then later, when Moses finds out who he really is, things start to change and he feels like he doesn't belong there anymore, even though Ramesses pleads for him to stay. And then years later, when Moses returns to Egypt, of course, Ramesses hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed about him was the fact that he became Pharaoh in all the time that Moses was away. But Moses has changed. He's not the same person that he is anymore. And then when Ramesses realized that, that's when this whole feud starts happening between the two of them. And when you're watching this feud happen, I mean, you could see that it's hurting Moses just as much as it's hurting Ramesses when things start happening. So, I mean, that showing of brother relationship in this movie was really the core that made this movie shine. This movie has had such a cultural impact. I mean, even now it's still getting great acclaim, and it will still get acclaim in years to come. So much acclaim so that after 2 years after its release, it got a spin-off and direct-to-video prequel that told the story of Joseph. I'm pretty sure you know that one, Joseph, King of Dreams. Although that one wasn't on the level of The Prince of Egypt, since it was a direct-to-video movie, it's still one that was praiseworthy. Just basically kind of like it was Prince of Egypt, but on a much lower budget. But still, that's still something to be proud of. Without a doubt, Prince of Egypt is a movie that's never going to be forgotten. I mean, even when it reaches its 50th anniversary, it's still going to be remembered, without a doubt. It's not going to be one of those movies that that's just going to die out in the past unless 2D animation somehow just gets wiped off the face of the earth and becomes a dying art form that no one wants to do anymore. But in my mind, Prince of Egypt is probably the greatest animated film of all time, and I don't think there's going to be any animated films in the future that's going to top it. Honestly, any animated films in the past that top it. So, I mean, it's just a landmark, and it's probably going to stay that way forever.